Welcome to Pastoring on Purpose, the official podcast of the Center for Ministerial Care. Coming to you live from the floor of the 2026 Church of God International General Assembly in beautiful Orlando, Florida.
Welcome to another episode of Pastoring on Purpose, and here we are on Friday here at General Assembly.
It's done, almost.
We're like right at the finish line. And Ryan, I couldn't help but think about the guests that we've had, man. It's been absolutely phenomenal.
It's been wonderful. Everybody's been very open and sharing and excited to talk about the improvements in their life and share what they've been through and how they've gotten through it.
Absolutely.
And it's been so wonderful.
You know, one of the things I love about General Assembly is just catching up with old friends, people that you don't get to see that often. And the guest that we have today, Pastor Dennis Laughlin, is someone that I've known going way back to Lee days. Yes. Don't want to date us, but it's been a few years.
Been a few years, yes.
Right. Your wife is good friends with my wife, and man, thanks for being with us today.
Glad to be here today.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself first, so that the listeners can kind of know who Pastor Dennis Laughlin is.
As you said, my name is Dennis Laughlin. I'm currently lead pastor, Starkville Church of God in Starkville, Mississippi. As we were saying a second ago, that is the home of Mississippi State University.
That's right.
Not to be confused. No. The school up north of us. You know,
we won't even name
them right now.
They're just a bunch of rebels.
Or land sharks.
Or bears.
Or bears.
They don't know.
They don't know.
It's confusion.
Right, so it's a lot of confusion.
Identity confusion.
Minds.
I got you.
So we've been there about 5.5 years. My wife, Jamie, and I, we're actually going to have our 25th wedding anniversary August the 4th.
Congratulations.
Wow, congrats.
Thank you. And talking about that, you're not far behind because I was a newlywed when my wife was, I think, roommate, suite mates in campus choir. Mm-hmm. So she was in your wedding, and we traveled up to Ohio to that wedding.
I think it was rainy and cold that weekend, wasn't it?
It was raining. It was cold.
Yeah.
It was all kind of stuff.
You all got married just before us,
yes,
if I'm not mistaken. So we were May 18th.
Okay.
And so you hadn't been married just a year just yet.
Yeah, not even a year.
Yeah.
So we went on a road trip to Ohio.
There you go.
To see Tim and Melinda get married.
That's right. See us get hitched, right?
Me and Jamie, we've been married 25 years. She's also, of course, as we talked about, she's a Lee alumni. Mm-hmm. She did her bachelor's and her master's there. Our first year of marriage was, I know this is all kind of ministerial care, so whoever may be at the beginning, our first year of marriage, we were both students. It was my senior year of bachelor's, her first year of her master's degree. So we were living on love. We were dirt poor.
Yeah.
And so we started from the bottom. I don't know if I'm here yet, but at least I'm not quite on the bottom yet. So our oldest daughter, Jaden, she is about to go into her senior year at Lee, and she is a elementary education major.
Okay.
And I've got my youngest daughter, Molly Kate, is about to start her junior year of high school. Yeah. So that's my family. I'm in a house full of women, and so I'm thankful for that. We started pastoring. I had graduated in 2002, and Jamie had one more year. We committed to her parents. We got married that she would finish her master's degree, so we wanted to hold true to that.
Yeah.
And but I was dying to pastor, and so Brother Dennis McGuire was the overseer of Tennessee at the time, and so he had a church in Maryville, Tennessee, that was about hour and a half or a little less from Cleveland, and he told me, he said, I got a church up in Maryville. Either I'm going to close it or you can pastor it. Yeah. And so I was like, Brother McGuire, I'll take it. I'd love to take
anything to get your foot in the door.
Anything to get my foot in the door. So we started. Our first church was, I think they paid. There was no parsonage, no insurance, any of that. I think it was $150, and we drove up there twice a week. So we just about burnt that in food and gas. Easily doing that. But that was our first church. We moved up there the second year. And long story short, it just about killed me. We went back to Cleveland. I thought I was going to teach. I was like, forget this pastoring thing.
Yeah, I'm done with it. Yeah.
I enrolled back in Lee. I was going to get my teaching degree. Had to do some undergrad classes. I was going to do the master's in teaching. But that whole call goes without repentance thing, it got me before the end of that year. And we ended up going to Alton, Illinois, pastoring there for about 5 years.
Okay.
Then a church in Mississippi, down in South Mississippi, Lucedale, opened up, and we went down there for about 8 years. And then I made the mistake of telling the Lord when we left Illinois that first time. I've actually got a picture of me brushing snow off of our blue Honda Odyssey van. And I can remember saying, I will never come back up here again. And so the Lord made me eat those words.
Absolutely, of course.
And after 8 years in South Mississippi, one county up from the coast, the Lord called us. We went to Bethalto, Pastor Bethalto Church of God, for just a little over 2 years. And the Lord opened the door in Starkville and been there for a little over 5. So that's kind of my story, as shortly as I can tell it.
What's the difference culturally between the two? I'm sure there's quite a big difference between Mississippi and Illinois.
I'll say this, because people say hospitality, and it is kind of just the open hospitality.
Sure.
After we lived up there for a while, I can remember one time we were driving back home, because Jamie's from Alabama, I'm from Mississippi, so we come back south, to visit family. And I remember her saying one time she's in the bathroom, this woman starts talking to her, and it threw her off, because people up there just, there's not as much small talk, there's not as much as there is in the South. But I will say one thing that we learned, that our church family, when you know people, they're just as loving and they're just as genuine. There is some culture, but people are still people. People in Illinois, man, they just the ministers in the Church of God in Illinois, man, they embraced us. They loved us. I mean, it was a good time. Good time for us in ministry there, and it's just like I said, the cultural differences. People are still people, and so.
Let's get into the pastoral role for a moment then. What are some things that you found challenging the most in regards to pastoring?
Oh, man, here recently, it's just so much stuff is changing so much quicker. I mean, obviously I'm getting older now, but the days of preaching a good sermon, just having some good music, that's not it. And even, I hate to say this is going to sound terrible, not even just preaching a good biblical sound sermon. I mean, I cannot let the news and the headlines and Instagram dictate what I'm going to preach. But at the same time, I'm looking at all kinds of ages. I'm looking at people who are retired toward the end of their life. But I've also got a lot of college kids that I'm preaching to every Sunday. And I have to at least, they're going to get it from somewhere. Yeah. Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. They're going to get it. And, everybody's a preacher now on a lot of those. And so they're going to get it from somewhere. So if I don't make a conscious effort to tell them what the Bible truly says about homosexuality, what the Bible truly says about gender identity, all those kind of things, and they're going to get it somewhere else. So it's definitely changed, even in just the 25 or almost years that I've been pastoring. If I don't talk about it, if I don't tell them what the Word of God says about it, then they're going to get the opinion of some blogger or TikToker out there, and believe what they say. So absolutely, it's changed dramatically.
And it's tough because you're dealing with 3 different generations, right? Do you find it difficult to connect to all 3 while you're trying to kind of get the message out of what is biblical and what's not?
In some ways it is, because you're going to have one generation, the older generation, when you talk about these things, they're going to lean that traditional way and they're going to be amening. And then you've got some that are, there may be some out there that disagree with me, or there may be some that they're just kind of like taking it in, that they truly want to learn. I think that's probably been a change, I guess, difference in preaching pastorally and evangelistically. I'm Pentecostal. I mean, I like to shout. Back in my younger days, I have run the backs of the pews even a time or two. Now we have chairs now, and I'm a lot older and a lot heavier.
That could be a highlight reel if you did that now.
Could be a highlight reel. Yes,
a quick trip to the hospital, right?
Yes. So now I try to find that balance of I've got so many young people, they're used to sitting in class, and they do want to take notes, and so making sure that I'm kind of preaching yet teaching, and at the same time doing it in love. That I'm not just, and I will say I've that's one thing I've always been conscientious of. That I've said, hey, listen, the way to win people over that are struggling is not just to hold up a sign and say God hates queers. I mean, that's absolutely not going to work. We have to address this stuff in love. Now, we do have to tell them the truth and say, look, it's just like any other sin. Sin will send you to hell, but God loves us enough that He sent His Son to forgive us, and I want to help lead you. I try to be conscious about if I'm going to address that. Say you also can't be heterosexual people. You can't just shack up with each other.
Right.
It's all sin.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you want people who are struggling to come to church.
Mm-hmm.
You want them in your pews or your chairs or whatever you want to call it today. Yeah. And I think it's really important because you're going to be asked these questions, Pastor. You're out there. A lot of our leaders are out there listening to this. They're going to ask you these tough questions. How are you going to respond? And it's not just so much it's not just so much the theological answer you give them, but it's how you react to it. I think is really important as well.
Absolutely.
What are some things you do to kind of help you? Because you've been in ministry. How long have you been pastoring now? Goodness.
Almost 25 years.
25 years.
Mm-hmm.
So just about as long. You've been married, right?
Yeah, we got married, and we were married about a year, so around 24, because we got married, and it was after we were married. We were in that school together. I graduated, so right about 24.
Okay.
Then. Yeah.
What are some things that you found that's been helpful for you to kind of help you emotionally, mentally, spiritually, to be able to keep going and be healthy yourself?
I have found personally that I've had to come to a place where the church, not the Lord,
mm-hmm.
but the church and the profession of and that's probably ain't right to say either, but it's not the only focus of my life, because I found if my whole life is only about being a pastor, but when the church is going great, hey, that's great.
Absolutely.
But then, like every church does, it goes through cycles and seasons, and you have one of them down times. And if that's all your life is, then, you're probably going to plummet also.
That's a good point. And I see a theme there that when church is going well, when numbers are up, you see visible signs of the Lord moving, right?
Yes.
Pastors feel great.
Oh,
they're happy. I mean, this is wonderful. Yes. I love what I do.
Oh, they're talking about how, man, that's what a great sermon you preach,
It's awesome.
Fellow ministers like, man, I've been seeing your number. Man, y'all are knocking it out of the park there.
That's right. Just hyper and excited.
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side of that, when numbers are down, there's some discouragement. When pastors now to blame.
Yep.
You know how it is in the church. When everything goes great, praise God. When when things don't go great, it's your fault.
Yeah.
Right?
And the buck stops here.
That's exactly right.
It's that danger that we've talked about on the show in the past of making your calling your sole identity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
If you're responsible for the success, then you are also responsible for the failure.
Yes,
absolutely.
And that is a lot of weight to put on one person for the efforts of a whole lot of disciples.
Ryan, I think, too, it's like we've talked about, there's a codependency there when that happens. Mm-hmm. Now, your happiness, everything about your life at that point is dependent upon how well the church is doing, and that's very dangerous.
And what happens to your family because you've missed boundaries at that point.
Yeah.
You've let it in everywhere.
Yeah, well, I would say kind of some of those things that I've done. One of them is, I've tried to kind of talk about that as find my identity as a husband,
mm-hmm.
of course, as a Christian first,
Sure.
and then as a husband and as a father. I've tried to. I don't say this to pat myself on the back because I make a whole lot of mistakes
mm-hmm.
and I'm not great at everything. But one of the things that I've tried to do is make sure, since Jaden was born almost 21 years ago, is to make sure I keep them first. I had an older minister tell me back when I was in MIP, a young preacher, make it's God, your family, and then the church. And so I've tried to make sure I'm at every ball game,
mm-hmm.
every competition, everything it can. And my youngest daughter, it was Father's Day. They had several kids get up, just share a little something, and she, she recognized that, and I didn't coach her into it, believe it or not. I mean, but she got up and she said, "You've always been there for everyone." She's a cheer. Molly Kate's big thing is cheer, and so she said, "You're at all of my games." And I do, thankfully, because I've got a little bit of freedom in my schedule.
Sure.
I go to the school. It's open for parents to come to the pep rallies, and that's like, honestly, for her, the pep rallies are a bigger deal than the ball games are for cheering, because the cheerleaders coordinate all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, you're at my pep rallies and all. And so it did make me feel good to know that, hey, my kids do know that this effort that I've tried to make, I didn't miss the mark on this one, that they see that they're important.
What you just said right there, I think, is so invaluable for your daughter to say what she said about you.
Mm-hmm.
As her dad, as a father.
Yes.
I don't know if there's a greater achievement that you can have than that, quite frankly.
I don't think so. And I've had some honors. And I'm thankful for every honor of the church, everything I've been able to serve or preach at or do. But yeah, none of them's like
amazing.
Like that. I mean, that's was
amazing.
One of the greatest. Kind of another thing that I've done to try to keep the church from being it would just be to find something else. I got involved in, when I was still down in Lucedale, I got involved in FCA at our middle school, and I was involved in that. And then the football coach one day, he was the middle school coach there, Coach Roger Dearman, and he, just like you would think of a middle school football coach, one day after FCA, he was like, hey, my PA guy quit on me. Can you do PA for me? I was like, well, yeah, Coach,
sure.
I'll do whatever I can. And
put me in, Coach. That's it. That's what I was thinking. Yes. Whatever you want, Coach.
Whatever you want, put me in, Coach. So that started something I'd never done before, and so I actually started doing middle school football PA, and that's for those that aren't sports fans. That's the person you hear in the building, not on TV or the radio. That's the person you hear over the speakers in the building. That kind of led me to the high school baseball coach was also a pastor in the town, and his PA guy quit, and so I started doing the varsity baseball. I did several seasons of that. So that kind of got me into that. Long story short, we moved to Illinois. One of those years was COVID, so there was nothing going on. But when we moved to Starkville, I ended up through the school the girls were going at. They were looking for some help. Got involved in PA. I did softball there. I did baseball there. It's like one Wednesday afternoon, I was sitting there in my office, and on Facebook, Mississippi State put out an ad. They were looking for PA announcers.
Yeah.
Just send in a video of you doing PA, and then it said, but if you don't have a video of you actually doing it, send us a video of you just pretend like you're doing what you would normally do in a game. So I was sitting right there at my MacBook, and I just turned it on and just real quick recorded it, sent it in. Anyway, they got back with me and said congratulations. So I kind of started filled in with volleyball, filled in with softball, and then they gave me volleyball. And so anyway, now on the fall, I am the PA for Mississippi State volleyball. In the spring, I'm PA for Mississippi State softball.
That's cool.
And which softball just made it to the Women's College World Series this past year.
Really good team.
So, which also, I'll say this, to spiritualize it a little bit more, I had the opportunity before they went to Oklahoma to the Super Regional. I got the opportunity to do the devotion before they got on the bus and went up to Norman for that Super Regional that they shocked the softball world and toppled Goliath and all that. So it opened up some doors. So I've done that. I've done basketball games. I've pretty much filled in at least for every sport except for football at Mississippi State.
I think it's really important to highlight that this is something that you pursued outside of.
Yes.
Right. Your calling there at the church, and careful to say profession. It is a profession. Okay. Yeah. You get paid, and it's but nonetheless. And that's allowed you to kind of have that moment of just kind of stepping away from it. There's more to you than what you do at the church.
Absolutely. And it's given me, like I said, I got an opportunity to do it. And it's taken me several years to earn trust. And, of course, it's not like Lee, it's not a Church of God school. So it's a state school. So you kind of have to be a little more careful. But still, I was able to do that devotion. I've also had several of my coworkers that work in the booth because I'm sitting, for those that do church, games aren't really any different. I've got somebody sitting beside me that is normally she. That crew is usually all ladies that do that. She's running the video board. I've got the person running the playing the music and everything. Depends on what sport, the walk-up songs or whatever it is. And, then there's somebody running sound. And so I've actually had several of them in the last few months come to church, because it's given me that outside witness, to be able to reach some people. So on top of the mental, my whole identity is not in fact, I had one guy the other day. He's like, I didn't realize that you were the lead pastor of that church. I
didn't even know.
They didn't even know, you know. So I don't just go in and say, hey, I'm pastor so-and-so from the Church of God. I want you to come. But hopefully I've been the kind of person to be around that they're like, they want to come to church. So
and I think for a lot of people, that's the best way to demonstrate Christianity as well, is when they don't see it that you're not wearing the badge.
Yes.
Right? They just see this is a guy who's doing good and is a good man and is just behaving like a human being with respect and kindness. And then you find out that, he's the lead pastor. And a lot of times that can be the door to invitation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Being the light.
Yes.
It's just it's gravitated that like there's something about this person, I want to be around them. That's always a good thing to have as a leader. Is like people want you want people to want to be around you, I would think.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
You don't want to be that guy that's like, God, he is obnoxious. I'd never. Oh, he's a pastor. I'd never go to his church.
Right.
Dennis, thank you so much for being with us, man.
Absolutely, I appreciate the opportunity. It's been fun.
Absolutely, it has been fun, and we love you, appreciate you. So share with us what church you're at now. There in Mississippi.
Starkville Church of God.
Okay, and y'all have a website.
We do. We've got a website. I believe it's www.starkvillecog.com, on Facebook, on Instagram.
Well, man, thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
It's no problem. So for myself, for Ryan, and for the wonderful pastor, Dennis Laughlin, we will see you next time on Pastoring on Purpose. And until then, God bless.